Good evening. Welcome to our third session in our series of Thrive. I'm excited to invite you to Thrive, a faith and wellness community series, a three-part virtual event designed to help our community live well in body, mind, and spirit. As a ministry, this was our first time hosting an event like this, and here's the reason. We see real needs in our community. Adults of all ages are navigating health questions, medication, stress, and life transition. We believe God wants his people to thrive throughout their whole lives, not just spiritually, but physically and emotionally too. This series brings together trusted medical and wellness professionals that you know and love with our faith centered commitment to stewardship. It's a chance to learn, grow, and make wise, informed decisions that honor God with our lives, with the lives He's given us. Tonight's theme is peace of mind, mental health for every season of adult life. This session is presented by Dr. Mary Goodwin and will normalize mental health as a lifelong journey that provides tools for emotional well being. I will read Dr. Mary's bio. Dr. Mary is a pastor and evangelist at Church Without Walls Outreach Ministries in St. Mary's County, Maryland. She serves in many capacities, including preaching the gospel, teaching the word, providing biblical counseling, and assisting with planning and organizing of outreach events and activities. Dr. Mary earned her doctoral degree in clinical psychology from the Chicago School of Professional Psychology in Washington, D.C. She has been providing psychotherapy and other therapeutic services in Waldorf, Maryland since 2012. Dr. Mary, thank you for joining us this evening. I'll turn the presentation over to you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad you've joined us. Can we move to our first slide, please? We are going to be talking about, I'm sorry, let's go back to the very first. Okay, thank you. We're going to be talking about what every adult should know about mental health. Now, let's go to the second slide, please. You see that over to the left, peace be still. And most of us know when Jesus spoke those words, and he was on the ship with the disciples going on the ship. They were on the Sea of Galilee. They were crossing over to the other side. A huge storm comes up, and he speaks, peace be still. When we study the word, we know or we've discovered that there are at least 429 times when the word peace is mentioned in the King James Bible. Peace is critically important to God, so it's critically important to us as God's people. It's a main ingredient in God's prescription for whatever ails us. God's peace subdues storms, winds, waves, floods, and sicknesses in mind, body, and spirit. The scriptures reveal that peace is God's prescribed or ordained state of being for the mind, the body, and the spirit. Now, I want you just to think about when God speaks peace into our lives, what is he, what what words come to mind in addition to peace? What you think God is conveying in his peace when he speaks peace into our lives? I'd like for you, each of you, if you would, or as many of you who would like to just go to the chat box and put one or two words that you think God is conveying to us conveying to us, sending to us, wishing for us, desiring for us when he speaks peace into our lives. And we're gonna give you about 30 seconds to respond.
So, Dr. Mary, we're already seeing some things like rest. You can still continue to post like calm, rest, joy and happiness. Don't worry, trust me. No worries, no sickness. His love, life without worry, calmness even during the storm.
Hey, fabulous. It's fantastic. All of those things and more, right? Tranquility. Did we say stillness? Confidence in him, I see just popped up. Contentment. What about ease and repose, oneness, fellowship with him, sweetness and light, We can just go on and on and on, right? With all the things that God is conveying, sending, prescribing for us with his peace. Now, I want you to think that when there is an absence of peace in our lives, what's missing? So we can almost identify the very opposite of all those things that you mentioned. There's not going to be order when there's not peace. There's going to be disorder. We're not going to be restful. We're going to feel restless, maybe. We're going to feel anxious. There may be some apprehension. We're going to feel worried and troubled. And instead of absence of trouble, there's going to be absence of faith. Someone just added to the chat box. There's going to be tension and distress and dread, right? Things like that, conflict, torment. We can just go on and on and on, strife, turmoil, so much more. We will have an absence of peace. And when we don't have peace, our minds, our bodies, and our spirits are subject to all of those negative conditions that we just mentioned that take us out of God's best prescribed place for our lives and will predispose us to becoming mentally, physically, and spiritually ill. Interestingly enough, there are strong connections between physical and mental health, right? Researchers have found that people with mental health illnesses are highly susceptible to developing physical health diseases. For instance, depression has been linked to many chronic illnesses, including diabetes, asthma, cancer, cardiovascular disease, and arthritis, right? Schizophrenia has been linked to a high risk of heart disease and respiratory diseases. Few more. When we're in a constant state of stress, there's the stress hormone cortisol is released in our bloodstream, and if you're in stress continuously, there's a constant release of cortisol. High cortisol levels for an extended period of time are related to the body's reduced ability to fight off infections. So it affects our immune system. It may also increase inflammation, which leads to frequent diseases, slower recovery, and more work absences. And I'm pretty sure that Dr. Yolanda talked about the effects of inflammation on our bodies and how it can lead to most of the diseases that occur in the body. Another situation about stress and its effect on mental health. Stress, depression, and anxiety can disrupt your sleep, as you probably might have experienced. Depression, anxiety, and chronic stress can also elevate the cortisol levels, which I just mentioned, and increase your heart rate and blood pressure. Depression and anxiety can increase sensitivity to pain, and they just, which means you will not only be more sensitive to pain, but it will intensify the experience of pain. So if there's pain in your body and you're experiencing depression, anxiety, or another mental health disorder, that pain will be intensified along with, so you're going to be feeling extremely physically ill and mentally ill at the same time. So our mental health is extremely important. So it is so God's prescription. So I'm sorry, next slide, please. We can move on. So mental, physical, and spiritual health are ordained by God. Now, let me just say this at the outset. Most of us know this, and many of us may not, because I'm taking time to mention this because mental health disorders, and people with mental health disorders and mental health care has been misunderstood, mistreated, and stigmatized for thousands and thousands of years. Many of us may have grown up um, believing or hearing or being taught that people in our families, people in other people's families, people in general with mental health disorders were supposed to be feared or avoided because they weren't right. We were taught to see them as embarrassments. They were shameful, that they were disgusting. They should be hidden away, to be put, to be locked up, to be ignored, or to be mistreated. This is not just our generation, but many generations before us for thousands of years had the same view. Not everyone, of course, had the same view, but you may have experienced or heard about that or learned about that. People with mental health disorders were often blamed for causing their own problems because they were thought to have done something wrong that displeased God. So they were morally weak. They were thought to be victims of evil curses. They were thought to be possessed by demons. A lot of misconceptions. But all of that is wrong. God's view on your mental health is completely different. Your mental health is just as important to God as your physical health, which is just as important as your spiritual health. You are spirit, your mind, body, and soul. That's how God created you, mind, body, and spirit. I'm sorry, correction. And not one of these parts of you is to be neglected. So, whose report are you going to believe? Let's just go back to the slide for a moment and just look at the scripture there. Beloved, I believe I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. When Jesus healed the sick, he healed those who were sick in mind, body, and spirit. These are just some of the examples, and these are all scriptural examples of how Jesus healed and the people that he healed. He cast demons out of the boy who threw himself in the water and the fire. When he did that, he healed his mind and his spirit. When he cast demons out of the man of the Gadarenes, Jesus healed his mind and his spirit. When he healed the woman with the issue of blood, he healed her body. When he cleansed the lepers of disease, he healed their bodies. When he was preaching and teaching the scriptures, the gospel, he healed the spirit. So, if it's God's best for us, whose report are we going to believe? I'm going to believe, let's all believe the report of the Lord. His report says we are to be healed in mind, body, and spirit. That's his desire for us. So as me and my house, we can each say, I'm I'm going to serve the Lord in this capacity. Next slide, please. So we can see here that depression and anxiety are the most common mental health disorders across the planet. Most people will experience one or both of them in their lives to varying degrees. Most may not experience clinical depression, and that clinical depression is something a little different when you have a lot of symptoms that are so uncomfortable and so unpleasant. It's going to bring you in. You're going to be looking for help, seeking help, hopefully from a mental health professional. But let's look at the fact that children, that most people will experience, including children. So I'm just going to give you some brief statistics, very brief. We're not going to stay long on the data, but the most recent data shows that 5% of adults in the United States, or 1 out of every 20, reported feeling the symptoms of clinical depression. 12%, or one out of every eight U.S. adults regularly reported feeling anxiety to a level that they needed to seek help for it. Now let's listen to these statistics, which are quite different. For the young people, 40%, or 2 in every 5 U.S. high school student reported experiencing symptoms of clinical depression, and 20%, which is 1 out of every 5 US adults, reported experiencing anxiety to the extent that they really needed help. Youth in the United States are experiencing a mental health crisis, actually. And it's a troubling pattern, and it's on the rise. And the most significant is you can see that the higher percentage of these young people were experiencing depression to the extent that they were considering or contemplating suicide. So this is extremely important. So I just want to urge you that if your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, all of these and adolescents, if they are your grandchild, student, neighbor, anyone you run across who's a youth, if they're complaining about feeling depressed or anxious, believe them. Don't ignore them. Get them help because they are experiencing these symptoms at a high rate in our country. Okay, so let's move on. Oh, I'm sorry, don't move on yet. Let's define depression. So here are these are some of the criteria for meeting the clinical um, definition of depression. Feeling of self-sadness, emptiness, loneliness, hopelessness, worthlessness, most days. Loss of pleasure in most activities for most days. Difficulty sleeping, thinking, concentrating, most days. Thoughts of death, suicide, suicidal ideation, even a suicidal attempt. Now, let's think about anxiety, the clinical depression, a clinical definition. Feeling nervous, trembling, hands shaking, difficulty relaxing and or breathing, feeling terrified, scared, or fearing the worst can happen. Heart pounding, heart racing, digestive upset. These symptoms experience people who are clinically depressed are experiencing them on a regular basis most days. And so just wanted you to get a sense of what anxiety, clinical depression looks like. Most of us know when we're not feeling off our game, so to speak. And we have the option of seeking help. Sometimes if we've been under stress for a very long period of time, we may not know when we're off our game. We may not be able to tell. So sometimes a loved one can say, hey, I think you may need some help. If you have someone to come to you and you can trust that person as having your best interest at heart, listen to them because you might really be off your game and need to help to get back to that place of peace that God has prescribed for you. Next slide, please. Recognizing when to seek help. Okay, when it's hard to get through your day, these can be some symptoms. When you or someone you know is feeling sad, down, having trouble getting out of bed, eating, sleeping, concentrating, going to work, and or carrying out their daily routine most days, you may need help. When you or someone you know cannot calm down, is fearful, nervous, shaky, has a pounding or racing heart, stomach upset, clammy hands, and sweating most days, you may need help. When you or someone you know has been given a mental health diagnosis but has never received mental health care, it's time to seek help. Next slide, please. When in crisis, when you or someone you know feels like you might hurt yourself or themselves or hurt someone else, this is what you can do immediately. Call 911. Go to the nearest emergency room or call or text 988. This is a suicide and crisis hotline where you can get immediate response 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When you or someone you know is having trouble telling the difference between what is real and what is not, and is unable to keep themselves or yourself safe, call 911. Go to the nearest emergency room. Try not to be alone. Hopefully you'll be around someone who can get help for you if you can't get it for yourself. When you or someone you know is hearing things that others don't hear, seeing things others don't see, and believe that the harmful instructions that they may be hearing must be obeyed, get help. Call 911. Go to the nearest emergency room. These are situations of crisis, and you don't want to wait or delay. Okay, next slide, please. How do I obtain mental health care? Other than going to the emergency room in times of crisis or calling 911 or 988. First, let's look at the primary sources of health and healing. We just read that the Word of God and the Church of God are our primary sources of healing and wholeness, healing, health, and wholeness, because God has already written a prescription for us. However, there are times when we need help from, we need additional, not that God is not sufficient. God has provided many avenues of help, and He gets to choose the best choice for us. So God has provided the services of mental health professionals. All truth comes from God. In His graciousness, He's imparted His knowledge and wisdom about how the mind works to His people. Mental health professionals study the brain and the mind, and they learn how to help people heal their minds when sickness develop. We're talking about, all types of mental health disorders. It could be depression, anxiety, confusion, overwhelm, trauma, so many others. How to find a mental health professional. Your first line of care could be directly from your primary care physician. If you have a doctor and you know you're experiencing some problems with some of those symptoms that we've already mentioned, can't sleep, can't eat, stomach upset, shakiness, can't having trouble getting out of bed, then you can ask for a referral. You can talk to your doctor and say, I'm having trouble. Many times your doctor will routinely, at least once a year or maybe every 6 months, do a mental health screening, but you don't have to wait for that mental health screening. You can ask for help directly. You can also contact your insurance company. Usually, your insurance company, most of the time, has a list of providers who already they know accept your insurance, so they can provide that list to you, give you some help there. You can also search on your computer or phone for mental health providers in your area. You just type in that search in your search bar, mental health providers in my area, and you're going to get a list of people in your area that you can contact, that you can consider contacting. Okay. Um, Next slide, please. So, say you have already reached out, you found a mental health provider, you want to make an appointment, maybe you've made the appointment. These are some things you need to do ahead of time. Make a list of what you want to discuss and any questions you may have. Prepare a list of your medications. Review your family history. Consider bringing a friend with you when you go the first time. You may want support, especially if you aren't feeling well. That person can also help you take notes. Now, you might wonder, well, why do I need a list of my medications? Your mental health provider wants to understand what medications you're on, what challenges you're already experiencing, what if there are physical challenges you're experiencing in your life. They want to understand as much about you as possible. Just like Dr. Yolanda said a few weeks back, your doctor doesn't know everything, but the more you tell them, the more that the better they understand what's going on with you. It's the exact same thing with your mental health provider. The more you share about yourself, the more they understand about you, the stressors in your life, and the more they can develop a treatment plan to help you work through the issues in your life. Why do they need to know about my family history? Because some disorders, some mental health disorders, such as depression, anxiety, and there are others as well. There is a family pattern. If there's a family pattern of those disorders showing up in your family, some of these disorders have a genetic contribution, which means that there's a likelihood that members of in that family in your family could could develop that disorder. Doesn't mean it's a certainty or a guarantee. This means you're more predisposed to developing these disorders, certain disorders. That's why family history is important. And it also paints a broader picture of what you might be experiencing as well. Bringing a friend or a relative, you might say, I don't want anybody to know my business. I want to go by myself. You can, that's your option. But sometimes if you're not feeling well, it may be hard to understand what's going on. You may want someone to take notes. Um, or it's certainly an option to consider. I will say this, that your very first appointment is going to be an intake where you're going to be asked a lot of questions. And you just because that your provider is going to want to understand more get a closer picture about who you are and what's bringing you into therapy at this time. What are your concerns? What are your hopes? What are your goals? That's why those questions, that's why this list would be very helpful for you to prepare ahead of time. These are the kind of things that are going to be discussed at the very first appointment. Okay, next slide. What do you do when you get there? Say okay, you've got your appointment, you show up, maybe you show up with someone, a trusted friend or a family member, or maybe you show up alone. It's absolutely essential that when you go in for your appointment, you are honest. Your health can only get better if you're open and honest. I think you heard Dr. Yolanda say that 2 weeks ago, that your doctor doesn't know everything. And if you don't tell the doctor exactly what you're experiencing, you don't tell your mental health provider what you're experiencing, that person won't know. Don't keep secrets from your mental health provider. They are there to help you. What you say in therapy cannot be shared with anyone without your express permission. Mental health therapists or providers are are sworn to secrecy. They take an oath of confidentiality. They could lose their licenses if they did not, so they're not going to be spreading your business around. They're going to be very hold your information very confidential. Please describe all of your symptoms. They all matter. Whatever you're experiencing paints a picture, just like whatever you're experiencing physically helps your medical professional understand what you're going through. All of your mental health symptoms and emotional symptoms helps your mental health provider understand what you're going through. By all means, ask questions. Don't feel shy. There are so many things. When you're doing something new for the very first time, you're not going to understand. You don't know what to expect. You're not going to understand everything that's said to you. That's why it's important to ask questions. Some mental health providers may be willing or ready after the very first meeting to talk about a treatment plan where they may be talking about using cognitive behavioral therapy or another type of therapy um, with you. And so you're going to want to understand what does that mean because they're going to want you to be a participant in your mental health care. That means they're going to want you to ask to give them information. They're going to want to give you information. They're going to need your consent in order to participate in whatever treatment plan they design for you. So ask questions. If you don't understand it, don't feel shy. They're there to help. They will be very happy to answer your questions to help you feel comfortable and to start you feeling better. In closing, I'd like to just say a word. I think that's our last slide. Is there another one? Okay, so if we get to this, that's great. We might not get to this today, but if we don't, I'm providing a relaxation and a grounding exercise for you to practice anytime you want. I'll get back to that in a moment. But as far as mental health care, um, in closing, I just want to say a word about mental health care. So even if you're seeing a therapist or if you're working through some things on your own, it's important to know that there's some things that you can always do to safeguard your mental health. So some of these include, sorry, I'm sorry, that was a mishap on my part. Some of these include getting regular exercise, and some of these are very familiar from what Dr. Yolanda shared 2 weeks ago, because our mental health and our physical health are very interconnected. So doing things that protects your mental health also protect your physical health. Getting regular exercise, eating healthy, regular meals, and staying hydrated, drinking plenty of fluids. Making sleep a priority, doing something, trying a relaxing activity, setting goals and priorities can be helpful. Practicing gratitude. Sometimes we go through life with so many things may be going on that feels so impactful, so distressing, so upsetting, until it's hard to think that anything's good happening in your life. But there are things that you can be grateful for and that you can actually identify. And it changes how you feel about your day. It changes your mood. You may, you can think of a gratitude, you can do a gratitude journal, for instance, where you can think about what am I grateful for today? You might say nothing, but you woke up this morning. I'm grateful. Thank you, God. Or the sun is shining. It's not raining like it was the other day. We need rain, yes, but maybe the sun is shining, the birds are singing, the sky's blue, the flowers are blooming. There are so many things you can be grateful for. Simple things. I'm breathing. Simple things that you can. It doesn't have to be anything earth shaking. It can be these very simple types of things. Focus on positivity instead of the negativity. Yes, there are a lot of things happening in our lives. Our lives are complicated. There can be some difficult situations, but there are things that we can focus on that are positive and stay connected. So many studies show that when people are able to connect with each other and find support, it improves your physical and your mental health. So these are just some ideas of things that we can do to protect our mental health as we go along. Um, where we now we have time. I don't know if we have time. Do we have time, Janet and Tab, to just go through one of the exercises, or should we get right to the quick Q&A?
So it's 7:05, and you can expend your time as you will. If Q&A needs to still take place, we can go after session if necessary. But we'll
Oh,
just record for the next 20 minutes or so. Over.
okay. All right. So let's go to the exercises. Okay. So many of us experience stress. We all experience stress and distress at different times of our lives. It may not send us to a mental health therapist, but it's uncomfortable. It's unpleasant. It's not the same as peace. It's the opposite of peace. So, four square breathing is a way of bringing ourselves to a relaxed state of mind. So, I'm going to encourage you to get into a very relaxed state of mind right now. And you can close your eyes if you like, and I'll just talk you through this, okay? So I want you to imagine a square in your mind, and a square has four sides. And I want you to breathe right now. Just breathe slowly out, in and out, releasing the air from your lungs, just gently starting to notice your breath. Just stay with your breathing. Notice what it feels like to breathe, sort of tuning into the mechanics of breathing. When you take an inhale, the chest rises, your belly rises, and on the exhale, the opposite happens. Your chest falls and your belly falls. Just imagining that square and sort of breathing very relaxed right now. Now, what I'm going to now encourage you to do when we get to the exercise is you're going to breathe in through your nose as you count slowly to four, and you're gonna breathe. I'll just tell you what to do, and then we'll do it. You're gonna breathe in through your nose to the count of four. You're gonna hold for the count of four. You're gonna breathe out through your mouth to the count of four. You're gonna hold that exhale on the count of four, and then you're gonna repeat this 2 or 3 times, or 3 or 4 times. Okay, let's do this at least one time. Ready? Breathing in through your nose to the count of four. Let's breathe. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. And relax. Now, each time I mentioned the square because if you're visualizing the square in your mind, each each time you do a part of the exercise, you're building one part of that square. And visualizing the square as you're breathing can keep your mind from getting just from wandering off the task because you want to be able to focus on what you're doing in the moment. So if you're practicing relaxation, you want to stay with it. And visualizing that square is another way of keeping your mind engaged so it doesn't get to wander. Okay. Now, and relaxation helps you release tension and stress. Now let's look at the second exercise, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. It helps to ground yourself. Sometimes we can feel very overwhelmed. We can feel very upset. We can feel just all stressed out or um, checked out sometimes. And this exercise can help us to gently pull us back to a sense of being present, sense of being ready to move forward with whatever is necessary, whatever is next on our agenda. So this is what it entails: focusing on 5 objects you can see, 4 you can hear, 3 you can feel, 2 you can taste, and 1 you can smell. So let's do this together. Take your time. I want you to close your eyes and just visualize these things. You're going to call these objects to mind in your own space as I ask you to do that. So I'd like you to, or you can actually open your eyes for this one because you can look around your room. There may be 5 things you can see in the space that you're in. So, but just focus on them. And when I'm inviting you to do more than just look at it, but you're tuning in and you're noticing it almost as if this is the first time you've seen that object. You're being curious about it. So let's do it this together. Focus on 5 objects you can see. Okay, let's move on to focusing on 4 objects you can hear, whether you hear them right now or whether you've ever heard them. It could be birds singing or street sounds, doors closing, whatever sound. I'd like you to just choose 4 sounds to focus on that you can hear. So let's move on to focus on 3 objects you can feel. Now let's move on to focus on 2 objects you can taste. And now focus on 1 object you can smell. I'd like for Each of you or anyone who would like to just comment on how either one of these exercises felt for you today, and if you thought you might like to try them in your personal life anytime. And while you're thinking, um, or making a notation, if you're interested in doing that, um, there are other ways of grounding yourself. Some people need to move when they're grounding themselves. So just walking to the bathroom, walking to the water fountain, and noticing how your feet feel as you're touching the ground. Your feet are touching the surface of the ground. Noticing what your body feels as you're moving through space and air. Getting a sip of water and noticing the temperature on the coolness on your tongue and in your mouth, what it feels like. Using your five senses in various ways to just be present in the moment so that you can calm down and relax and restore your sense of calm and peace.
Right now, Dr. Mary, are you inviting people to ask questions and
Oh,
provide
yes,
responses?
absolutely. Now we're ready for questions and answers. Please raise your hand or post your question in the chat box.
Okay, so Zandra's raised her hand.
Yes, I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I use the breathing exercise almost every day because I notice that when I start rushing, I start getting anxious, and when I get anxious,
Mhm.
then your stomach start hurting and your head start hurting and you get
Oh,
the
yes.
sweating and stuff. So I use the breathing often. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a smart thing you're doing. Keep doing it. Right. And these exercises are life skills, right? And they just bring us back to a state of peace and calm and relaxation, or where we're at our optimal best. We can think well, we can plan well, we can move through life well when we're at peace.
Definitely.
There was a comment in the chat saying, love the grounding exercise, very purposeful.
Great.
And we have a
Glad you.
hand raised. Go Janice.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have a question, but that's the first I've heard of that exercise where you focus on five things, four things. And I think that's going to be very helpful because if you find yourself anxious, focusing on something, and you want to take your mind off of that,
Mhm.
if you absolutely do this, it's very distracting and you're focusing on something else that should really calm you down. So thanks for sharing that.
Oh, absolutely. And that is really what the exercise is designed to do. Take your mind off of the stressful situation or the stressors in your life or in your environment and bring you all in focused to you, bring your attention inside to you where you can start calming down and getting back to a peaceful state. Questions, comments?
This is Zandra again. I have a question. Um, how can you tell? Well, you can't tell. Well, how do you know whether or not you're suffering from a chemical imbalance or just anxiety? Is that why it's important to seek medical and get a checkup and stuff first so they can rule out any type of chemical imbalance?
Absolutely. Most, I should say, mental health providers are going to say to you, when you're talking about your symptoms of anxiety or depression, they're going to also ask if when was the last time you had a physical exam or medical exam? What has your doctor said? So they, just like mental health and physical health are interrelated, your mental health provider is absolutely going to want you to make sure your symptoms are not being produced by something in your body. Or it's not a disease or an organic problem, but that it's definitely a mental health or emotional health situation.
So Dee Dee is next.
Just wanted to say thank you for sharing your knowledge on mental health. I think in our community it's such a taboo um,
True.
to seek mental
Mm-hmm.
health, and
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes it's just a simple as a conversation
Mhm.
that can be very helpful, or little tools that you can use in order, because
Mhm.
life is life, and oftentimes we don't get the because of the fast-paced world that we live in, we don't get the clarity or the time that we need to decompress.
Mhm.
So we're just carrying one stress after another, or one trauma after another that compounds onto another one. So I'm grateful for mental health for that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what it's designed to do. Help people sort out the issues that they're dealing with, the stressors, the compound stressors, and be able to develop strategies to manage them.
Yeah.
And in many cases to work through them and be free of them. So yeah, you don't have to be burdened with the cares of the world. Um, there are ways to be able to work through them and feel better.
Um,
Thank you.
Dr.
Yeah.
Renee had her hand raised.
okay, sorry. Did someone need to go before me?
It's
I'm
your
not
turn.
able to raise my hand. Go on, Renee.
Okay. All right. So I'm not surprised about the children because we're seeing I would say in community pharmacy arena, we're seeing more children
Mhm.
um coping with anxiety. And I was thinking kind of spiritually out there. Okay, I'm out there in this, in the spirit. I feel like we already know there's attack on the family, but it seems like
Mhm. Mhm.
when we were younger, or maybe I should say in our day, we had aunties, grandmas, we had people that we could go to and talk about things, and they would explain things, reassure us. They were our confidant. But today, both parents are working. Sometimes they're working more than one job. The kids are involved in sports or art or, all these after school projects. They have maybe a very intense educational slash homework routine. And the family time is just being extracted with whatever's left over. And by the time there's a little bit of time left over, everybody's tired or everybody's short-tempered or whatever they thought was important is no longer important. I'll take care of myself or whatever. And I feel like it's really, our family time that has gotten away from us. We can blame it on devices, we can blame it on a lot of things, but I think if we approach it in a spiritual manner, we can see some things that maybe we could change in our daily routines that would allow the Lord to reveal some things to us that we may need to change when it comes to our family environment.
Yes, I agree. I think that's really good. Um, we know that God is a relationship God, and He created us with a need for relationships, and our first relationships are in our families. So when we don't have those mostly safe, mostly trusting relationships to fall back on, and we go out into the world and we confront all these stressful situations and bullying in school and so much else going on. We lose that place of being able to come back to a safe, restorative haven, place where we can get renewed and before we go out into the world the next day, to school and to work. So yeah, the family is not doesn't function the way it used to because we're in a different type of society, and that matters, and that's probably a factor when we do the research. I'm sure the research has been done, being able to look into the research to see some of the reasons that
Mhm.
our young people are so stressed.
And they're exposed to so much at a younger age.
are.
Some of the things that
Mhm.
they're exposed to now, we didn't see or realize or even knew these things were going on because we were shielded. There's no shield for them.
This
You
is
know,
true. Yeah. The internet has exposed everything across the world to everybody. And our young people are consumers of whatever is offered, of many things that are out there on the internet, many things that we the parents or the adults or the aunties or uncles don't or grandparents don't know about ourselves. They're partaking of this. So they're, it's some, they don't necessarily talk to the adults in their lives about it. They talk amongst themselves and they cannot advise themselves. They don't have the capacity to provide the wisdom. They don't have the wisdom to guide each other. They really do need some trusting adult, school
you know,
counselors,
I
parents.
agree. I agree with you all. I agree with everything that you said because I've been watching it.
Mhm.
And uh, because the bullying on social media, the picture taking,
Mhm.
the criticizing, you used to have where you didn't have everything hitting you.
Yeah.
And for those of us that had the family and growing up, we had outdoor skills, meaning we socialized. We knew you couldn't hide being a bully.
Mhm.
So there's a lot that the kids are dealing with now. So uh, I think one of the comments I was going to make, and I'm going to have to get off, is the fact that still some of our older or friends sit back and think that you don't need mental health. You just need to strap up your boat strings, your what is it, your bootstraps,
Good strings. Mhm.
and keep on going. And what I'm gonna say is my thinking about that is when you have a generation that says, "Hey, we came through this. This is what we had to do, and this was our focus, and that was just to survive." But then you pulled together as a family. But now you look at the younger generation who has resources or whatever, but you telling them, forget about your emotions. You just need to do such and such and such. It's kind of like a catch 22. You're between a rock and a hard place. So what do you do?
Even if someone is giving the message to a young person or to an adult that you need to forget about your emotions, the emotions are God given. They are a part of who we are. And if you ignore them, they're going to be expressed in some way. If you don't release them or process them, they're going to be expressed through anger or frustration or bully. Someone may turn into a bully because there's so much rage or anger or frustration is inside. They, hurt people. So someone is going to want to hurt someone else the way that they're hurting. So might, I shouldn't say they will, but they might. So the emotions are there. They're messengers that says something's wrong, something's amiss, something's awry. And when we pay attention to our emotions, we're able to then we're able to work through them if we're getting the right help or the right care, or someone is listening to us, if we have a trusting person who will listen to us and where we can express what's going on in our lives. So emotions are present. So giving them the message to anyone, ignore your emotions, that's not what God says. We covered that right at the beginning of the presentation. Every part of us is important to God. He wants us to be in total health, complete and whole health. And our mental health is as important as any other part of our lives. In fact, if your mental health is not, if you're not doing well mentally, it's going to affect your physical health. It's going to affect the way you show up. Nothing else, many other things are not going to work in your life. So you are not going to be able to live a prosperous life if your mental health is suffering and need care. So we don't want to ignore or neglect any part of our health, including our mental health,
So, Dr. Mary, thank
especially.
you. Thank you for that response. So we're going to pause here. And if there are
Okay.
any questions on the other side, Dr. Murray might be willing to stay around, but I do want to end this session. We are over time. So I want to thank everyone for their participation in these 3 sessions and thank you for attending. I want to stop the recording now. Thank you, Dr. Murray, once again.
You're welcome. Thank you.